What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Euro 2024 final recap video here on Touchline Talk. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the content going up on the channel. Spain, European champions, record fourth time, defeating England 2-1 in the final. And I want to kind of go through part of this game to set the stage for the larger conversation I want to have. From the very first minutes of the game, it was clear you were not getting a high press from England. This was not going to look like the Netherlands' first half. Gareth Southgate was going to live or die with what Gareth Southgate has always lived or died with: the cautious, conservative, sit back approach. And defensively, England were really, really good in the first half. That's a Spain team that's obviously scored a lot of goals, and there were very few real chances in that first half for either team. I mean, John Stones blocks the one Nico Williams chance. It took 45 plus minutes to get a shot on goal. There really wasn't. There were a couple block shots like that John Stones one here or there that denied. Phil Foden found himself in a little bit of space one time, but generally, in terms of actually thinking the ball was going into the net, you never really felt that way. So, in that sense, it was working. Then, Spain come out. Lamine Yamal sets up Nico Williams, and immediately to start the second half, after Rodri has to exit at halftime, Spain go ahead. I will make the argument, once again, that going behind is the best thing that could have happened to England, because then they had to start to play at least a little bit. Did they actually threaten all that much? No. But Cole Palmer gets his goal out of nowhere, just like Bukayo Saka got a goal, just like Jude Bellingham got his goal. They found a way because these are world-class players. Terrific finish. 1-1. And this is where the story changes and where I want to focus some of this conversation. I've said during this tournament, I don't ever trust a team that can only win one way, that can't actually create offense and score multiple goals in 90 minutes to win this tournament. It's a very good way, the way that England play, the way that France play. Basically, it's about making other teams beat you. And when you have the best players in the world, that's a pretty good strategy most of the time. And you look at England's opponents so far, none of them are even close to on their level. And specifically when it comes to attack, if you think about, okay, Netherlands have a really, really good defense, some good players in midfield, some of them were injured for this tournament, but you get my point. Do they really scare you in attack, though? No, not really. And so England were able to come from behind and to really take control of the games late on. To feel like things are starting to turn. And if you have to survive in a penalty shootout, you have to survive in a penalty shootout. But nobody was able to wrestle the game back from England once England took it and got those late goals. That's the difference here. And that's why I harp on the difference between getting to a semifinal, getting to a final, and actually winning a tournament. Because at some point, you're going to have to play a team of this caliber. England simply had not so far, and they've been able to get away with it. And I thought, maybe that Netherlands game, they did score multiple goals. Maybe that was the one they looked better in attack. That's the one that you have to have where you actually go and earn it. Because now you're in the final, who knows what can happen. But this Spain team is just really, really good and cohesive and multidimensional. And so at some point, if you essentially play to concede the first goal and don't attack until it happens, or until the game is basically over and you're going into extra time or penalties or whatever, eventually the other team's actually going to score the third goal. You're not going to be able to complete the comeback. You might get the one to tie it, but Spain didn't panic. England had a good stretch there after the goal where their confidence was growing, the fans were getting into the game. But then you've got one lapse in concentration in the back, the defense falls apart, and here you go. 2-1. Spain punish you. And it's not even the stars. It's Orzabal. And this is a Spain team that doesn't even have its midfield at this point. But they are good enough to punish you in those situations in a way that the Netherlands, that Switzerland, that Slovakia aren't. All it took was that one opportunity with a team playing this well and a team this confident. So eventually this was going to happen if England consistently found themselves behind, like they did in every single game of the knockout stage. The question was, can you survive to the point where either you can A, avoid that from happening, or B, you can get through the tournament first? And the answer was no. Which is why I have been so critical of Gareth Southgate and this strategy, because it's not about whether it gets you to a semifinal. If the bar is winning, this is not the way to do it. Because you got to do something else differently at some point. And they just didn't have enough in attack because they're not trained to have enough in attack. And even the goals that they're scoring in this tournament are not because they're putting these cohesive moves together. It's because they have some of the best players in the world that can bail them out. Meanwhile, Spain are scoring all kinds of different goals. And I mentioned this earlier in the tournament that if this is what they were going to look like and continue to be this hard to predict and have the ability to possess the ball and complete twice as many passes as England like they did in this game, but then also have two incredibly difficult wingers to deal with and all these different dimensions, that's a formula for winning this tournament, which kind of gets to the second part of this for me. Basically, the first thing is England and Southgate's strategy is to make somebody else beat them. And there are only so many teams that probably can, and certainly of the teams that they have faced, nobody else was able to do it. This Spain team was more than capable, and they found a way to do it on this day. The second part is that, for the first time in a long time, the best team at this tournament won this tournament. And it is not even a question. From start to finish, they were the most consistent, most impressive, most cohesive team. They scored a bunch of goals. The few shaky moments, they responded emphatically. I'm thinking about the Georgia game. They just started piling on the goals. And they were the better team in the final. It was a tight final, as I expected it to be, and I think most people did, because England's also obviously very talented, and they play defensively, and they make you beat them. But from a balance of play standpoint, from a statistical standpoint, from a chance creation standpoint, they earned this win. It wasn't the most impressive performance in the world, but they got it done. And they got it done having lost their most important player at halftime with all of the other injuries, while also, redefining themselves in terms of style of play in this tournament. It is awfully impressive. And if you look back, right, Italy, not especially impressive. Maybe they should have won that final, but just generally over the tournament, you didn't feel great about what they were doing there. Even more so Portugal in 2016, which is funny that you then go back to 2012 Spain as the last team that did something pretty convincing. Maybe not quite as convincing as this, but a team you go, oh, they look the part. Because, as I talk about all the time, the best team doesn't always win. That's what makes knockout tournaments fun and unpredictable. And that's why you have to evaluate them differently. But there is no question who the best team at this tournament was, and it is the team that's lifting the trophy. And by the way, Spain have now done this 3 times in 17 years. 2008, 2012, 2024. 3 times, 5 tournaments. With essentially 2 completely different sets of players. That is something that is unmatched. I think if I've got the numbers right, it was Germany. It took 25 years in between their 3 that they got. And, Lamine Yamal is one of the most valuable players in the world already in terms of financial value of what you could get for selling him. Everybody now wants Nico Williams, who was the most dangerous player in this game, got the first goal. This is a sustainable formula moving forward that I wasn't convinced coming into this tournament Spain had. But you started watching them play and you went, oh, this is different. This is what a multi-dimensional team with lots of different ideas, with different ways to solve problems looks like. And a team that knows what they're doing, is confident, and can plug pieces in where they need to when things aren't perfect, right? They lose some defenders through suspension. They lose midfielders through injury. You got Alvaro Morata leading the line, who is not anybody's first choice as a striker in terms of just looking around the world. You know, you got guys scoring 20 goals in the Premier League coming off England's bench. But it all worked. Give everybody from the top down credit of understanding they needed to do something differently to get back to the top of the sport. And now here we are. And the standard being set on both the men's and the women's side is Spain. No question about it. Everybody else is chasing them. Maybe they have the most talent on the women's side. They certainly don't on the men's side. But they are the best collection. They put the best performances together at this tournament. And obviously have a core to build on heading into 2026, where they're automatically going to be one of the favorites, assuming these guys are around in terms of Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal and etc. You know, all the Barcelona Academy guys. Could go down the list. That's really all I've got. That was the story for me, is that Southgate was going to live or die with his strategy. That strategy can only work so long. I just think you got to find different ways to win games. That's how you succeed in knockout tournaments. The best team at the tournament is the team that was able to do that. That is Spain. Spain are your Euro 2024 champions. Congratulations. That's all I've got for this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. There will be a weekend roundup that has reaction to the Copa America final as well, so be on the lookout for that. And I'll see you next time.